Hello, you guys. So, we are doing part 3. Finally, for those of you guys who don't like any kind of bad news, we are now doing my top favorites. I would say, so again, we're going from my least favorite to my most favorite world wonder. The first 2 or 3 I'm going to mention are probably still somewhere in the middle category where I'm like, do I really 100% agree that they should be world wonders or not? I don't know, but I enjoyed seeing them for whatever reason. I'll give you guys some background to that. Once again, if you guys are wondering about the background, why am I rating these? What is going on with this list? What is the point of it? Where do I think I have the right to even say what is better and what is worse? Please watch part 1 and part 2 and leave comments. Leave comments. I want comments from you guys. And I'll explain everything as to why I'm doing this. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So we have 10 left, so this is number 10, and we are talking Statue of Liberty. Okay, so I know that I kind of ripped into Christ the Redeemer, I ripped into the Eiffel Tower. And same thing with the Statue of Liberty. Again, it's just a statue. It's relatively built in relatively modern times, not as modern as Christ the Redeemer. But I think the reason I voted higher is because to me it's so iconic. And I'm not gonna lie, when I saw it for the first time, it really was this really awe-inspiring moment where I was like, why am I feeling like this seeing the Statue of Liberty? But it was just such a, I don't know. I can't imagine really anybody would be able to see the Statue of Liberty. Anybody who doesn't watch like American movies or been to America or has American friends or somehow is connected to America and wouldn't have that moment of like, oh, wow. It was another trip that I did with my friend Enrica. And yeah, we both were just kind of like, this is crazy. This is the Statue of Liberty. It might also a lot have to do with the fact that I love New York City. I just think New York City is such an amazing city. And I've been there a couple of times already, and it's always like, it's just like this, it's just a city where there's just energy and you just feel alive. And then on top of that, seeing the Statue of Liberty, it was just like, wow. So the Statue of Liberty was built in the 1880s. It is a monument. Obviously, it was a gift from France to celebrate the independence of the United States. It is in New York, and it will cost you around $25 to go in. I don't know if that includes the crown. When Enrica and I were there, they were renovating the crown, and we weren't allowed to go in there, and I don't remember how much we paid. So that's, yeah. Okay, next one on the list is Hagia Sophia. I love Istanbul. Let me tell you, I think a lot of these top 10 are probably also going to be influenced that most of them are in cities that I really, really love as well. And Istanbul is another city that I just love, love, love. Totally would live in Istanbul if I could find a decent paying job there. Not so easy. Yeah, Hagia Sophia. Currently, it's a mosque again, but it has been a church, it's been a mosque, it's been a church again. And it was obviously built for worship, and it was built in the year 535, 7, something like that, AD. And to go in would cost you around $30. Now, Hagia Sophia is another one of those things where I'm just kind of like, I do think it's really beautiful. I do think it's really interesting. I do think the location is amazing, all this kind of stuff. But again, in Turkey, it's one of those things where there's a lot of competition again, where I would say I'm not 100% sure why Hagia Sophia would beat out, let's say, like the Blue Mosque or Topkapi Castle. There's actually another mosque whose name I'm forgetting. I'll insert like a little, now that I'm kind of getting better at editing, or I'm willing to edit for this series, I'll put in a little name. Yeah, but there's so many mosques and so many beautiful old historic buildings in Turkey that I don't know if I would say that's the one that in Turkey should be the one considered a world wonder. It's cool, it's amazing, it has a really interesting history, but I think there's more spectacular buildings, in my opinion. Okay, number 3 is the Colosseum. Okay, this was built around 80 AD. This was obviously a place meant for entertainment. It is in Rome, Italy, and to go inside is about $20. The Colosseum, I think, is more interesting from the outside, more interesting looking from the outside, especially the part of Rome that it's in is very, very beautiful, and there's a lot of historical old buildings in that part of Rome that just overall create a really interesting and beautiful ambiance. Having said that, in Tunisia, okay, good, I remember the name. In Tunisia, there's also a Colosseum called El Jem, and it's cooler, more interesting, cheaper. You can actually go and walk around independently all by yourself, top, bottom, everywhere. It's still also more intact. So if Colosseums are your thing, I would probably say, go to the one in Tunisia. And Tunisia also very beautiful. But yeah, again, a city I love. I love Rome. Who doesn't love Rome? Rome is crazy beautiful, so expensive as a tourist. So much culture, so much history, so much to do just in that part of Rome, as I said. I mean, yeah, really amazing. In terms of the Colosseum itself, I think it's really nice. It's another one of those, it's a place though again where it can really, really get overcrowded very easily. And then the amount of tourists you're gonna get, and a bunch of pushing and shoving, and that's why I said, like, I think I connected more with El Jem. Even though the Colosseum is gorgeous, I connected more with El Jem because I was literally the only person there. And yeah, even trying to get like a nice picture without 20,000 other people trying to get a picture or something is going to be very difficult. And I think that kind of, I don't know. I don't really like overly touristy places. Although Rome is one of those few places where I would say a lot of tourists love, and I would also say it's really, also Venice and also in Italy. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, even though it's a very famous tourist location. But I would say in general, I'm a person who just prefers places that are more off the beaten track. And that's just my personality, because I just don't like it when it's just camera on camera, Starbucks on Starbucks, McDonald's on McDonald's, just one huge tourist bus or one huge tourist cruise after another, just like shuffling people through. It just, for me, takes away a little bit from the experience. But yeah, obviously, go to Rome. Definitely go to Rome. And definitely check out the Colosseum when you're there. I feel like we're going a lot quicker than this than we did with the ones I didn't like. All right, number 4 is Alhambra. And Alhambra was built around 1330s. It is a palace. It is in Granada, Spain. And to go inside is around $20. This place is huge. This is actually something I would say you probably would even take almost an entire day to see all of it. And maybe this is just, once again, love Spain, love Granada, love Valencia, very close by. Probably love Valencia even more. I really, really have a personal affinity for especially Persian, Middle Eastern interior decorating. That is just something I find incredibly beautiful, especially a lot of their woodwork. The carvings, that makes those little stars and stuff that's very common in the Persian or Middle Eastern interior decorating style. A lot of geometric patterns, the way they use tiles and the colors, and also a lot of times they use marble in English. What's that? Marble? Is it marble? Yeah. It's just gorgeous, you guys. It's so, like, the location of it is also beautiful. On top of that hill, it has beautiful gardens. I really, really, really loved it. Actually, I have a kind of a funny story with when it comes to Alhambra, because the bus, it was a tour, was it? Yes, it was a tour, and back when I was in Spain, I was really feeling myself. Like I was kind of really in good shape, and I was wearing pretty short shorts, and there was these two Saudi guys on the tour, and this should have keyed me in back then already that Saudi is, you know, definitely very gay, even though people seem to think the opposite. And man, the one guy was so, he was on me. Like he was following me through the entire like Alhambra. He was constantly like, "Do you want me to take a picture of you? I can take a picture of you." And like the other guy, I think was, I'm guessing it was his boyfriend. The other guy was so jealous and constantly trying to pull him away. It was actually really funny. Definitely beautiful. Definitely check it out. Definitely go to Spain. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, and our number 5, Neuschwanstein. Okay, everybody has heard of Neuschwanstein, the Cinderella castle. It was built in the 1860s. It's obviously a palace, something a lot of people don't know. It's a palace that was never finished because King Ludwig of Bavaria, he ended up, they think he was killed, but they definitely eventually disposed him by saying that he was insane. It's about 2 hours outside of München. The reason I'm giving it to you this way, because the town that it's in, no one's going to know. But it's about a 2-hour drive outside of München, and it costs about $20 to get in. So I have to tell you guys, being from Germany, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Neuschwanstein, because King Ludwig, first of all, he built a lot of palaces and castles, and he built a bunch that are way more beautiful, and they were completed, so the interior is also really, really beautiful. And not even just him. Within Germany itself, I think Germany has is the number 1 country in the world with the amount of palaces and castles and fortresses we have. We have more than any other country in the world. And therefore, there's really, really stiff competition for what is the nicest castle. So for me, Neuschwanstein, the thing is, it's very beautiful when you see it from further away, but the interior was never completed. So I think the interior is pretty lackluster, and you're paying to go in to see, and then it wasn't even finished. And there's so many castles in Germany that I personally just think are a lot more beautiful. I think Schwerin Castle is gorgeous. Gorgeous, and it's so unknown by anybody. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. Also Liechtenstein, Burg Liechtenstein, which is really relatively close to where I live, is also way more beautiful in my opinion, and picturesque, way more Cinderella looking in my opinion. I don't know, I could name probably like Burg Enns, not Enns, Burg Enns or Burg Enns. Also gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. There's just so many really beautiful castles, and I feel everybody goes to Germany to see Neuschwanstein, and again, it's kind of a tourist trap that's so tacky. This is just the German way of optimizing things. They basically put this huge football field announcer thing where kind of like you go and get your ticket, and it's like whatever, and then there's a big like announcer screen in the middle of the castle that just like shows when your ticket is due, and I was like, that's so tacky looking. But, you know, German efficiency, we had to do it. I don't know. It's beautiful. It is definitely beautiful. I'm not saying don't go, but there are way more beautiful castles in Germany. Way more beautiful castles, in my opinion. Okay, number 6. Just got back from there in February. Timbuktu. Alright, let me give you guys the facts first. So Timbuktu, so the main thing in Timbuktu is really the Sankore Mosque. Because Timbuktu is actually a town. It's still a town that people live in, But the highlight of Timbuktu, and I think what was meant to be the world wonder, is the Sankore Mosque, which was built around the 1320s. It is, of course, a place of worship. I think originally it was built as a madrasa and not as a mosque, if I remember correctly. Clearly, it is in Timbuktu, Mali. And it's technically free to go inside and see it, if they allow it. If you're Muslim, then it wouldn't be a problem. If you're not Muslim, then you probably have to get permission to go in. However, you need to get a visa to go to Mali. And I don't know if they restarted issuing visas. I got very, very lucky because they literally stopped issuing visas, tourist visas to Mali, I think 3 days after I got mine. Then you have to book a tour. It's going to be very expensive, especially if you want to add on Timbuktu. It's going to be so expensive. I actually want to say it might have been my most expensive world wonder. I would probably have to do the math between Timbuktu and the Moai of the Rapa Nui Easter Islands. I'd probably have to do the math and see which one of the two actually was the most expensive. But I think it's probably Timbuktu. And the thing is, like, because Timbuktu is in still a technical war zone in Mali, it was closed to all forms of tourism or anything for I think 8 or 9 years, because the last 2 tourist groups that went there were actually caught by Boko Haram and beheaded. So they closed it off completely for tourism, and I think it's only been open again for tourism for about 2 years. But it's still a very big hotbed. It's going to cost you an arm and a leg to go there, because you have to get into a group and you have to pay for a private charter plane. So you guys can imagine, like, it's very, very expensive. Now, for me, because I wanted to see all the world wonders, and for me, who is really into very unique architecture and history and stories, even though that trip, I really wish I would have done a better job at editing that video, because my Timbuktu travel video, I really think had such good content, and I think it showed a lot of personal growth on my part and the struggles I went through to do it, and how people go through struggles to try to achieve their dreams, and is it worth it, is it not worth it. I really contemplate a lot of that in my video. I understand that the editing was not very good and it's very long, so a lot of people didn't want to bother going through it, but I actually think it's one of my best videos I made. But it really did. That trip tore me apart. And up until the very last moment, I was just completely torn and anxious and stressed and scared and happy and grateful, and just all these feelings coming together, especially since it really looked up until the very last minute that Timbuktu wasn't going to happen, because everything was just not working out. And then I did finally get to see it. But then we had all these problems with the police there and were we going to get out? And one of the people that was in my tour was causing all these problems, and it was really crazy. So do I think that the average tourist is going to go? No. Would I recommend it to the average day-to-day tourist? No. But I would love it if that part of the world would find peace and Timbuktu would become a place again that quote-unquote regular, normal travelers, tourists could go, because I really, really thought it was so unique and so different and amazing, and the history and the lifestyle that the people that live there and the history of Timbuktu is just insane. I wonder of the world. Definitely. Wow. Okay, next we are at number 7. Yeah, number 7, and we are in Mexico, Chichen Itza. Andale, andale. Love the Yucatan, and I love Mexico City. Other parts of Mexico weren't so much for me, but definitely love the Yucatan. I don't know anybody who doesn't. especially Merida. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. So Chichen Itza again is actually pretty huge. It was a town or a village at the time of the Mayans. So I'm going to talk more specific about El Castillo, which is the main building that everybody looks at and thinks about and all this kind of stuff when they talk about Chichen Itza. For me, this was amazing. I have to say that Mayan architecture in general, that's why like in the other video I was talking about like Inca architecture, I was like, I just didn't connect with it because it really just looks like bricks. The same way we build nowadays. You know, nowadays we use those red bricks that are very, and the Incas built very similarly. Obviously, their bricks were like huge and small, and like the fact that they were able to fit them together so that these buildings will hold is of course amazing. But I don't know. To me, I just didn't feel that connection. Where like the Mayan architecture and all the filigree and all this kind of stuff that they added to all their buildings, to me is just beautiful and fascinating. I would personally, here again, if you're really into Mayan architecture, I would say that the really famous one in Guatemala, it was in Star Wars. Okay, I'm gonna have to insert again. What is the name of it? That one, personally, I think is actually maybe even more interesting. Tikal. When I saw it, probably again because it's a little less touristy and there's less going on. And then the last time I was in Mexico, I also saw Uxmal. And actually to say, I think I like that better too, because there's this right behind the main pyramid, there's this huge courtyard, and again, it's less busy, and I felt like a lot more of the structure and the carvings were still intact, and that just to me personally made it a lot more interesting. But that's not to say that I don't 100% recommend going to Chichen Itza. It is beautiful, it is amazing, it is completely worth the money. It does get very, very crowded. So I would say go very early in the morning so you can get a little bit to yourself, but 100% fascinating, super beautiful, love it, love it, love it. Chichen Itza, I don't know if this is El Castillo specifically or just, but around 700 AD is when the town, or El Castillo, I don't know, was being built. Obviously, the main pyramid was a place of worship, and it is about 2.5 hours outside of Cancun, Mexico. Cancun, I'm not that big of a fan of. And it will cost you about $50 to get in. And I just realized that I haven't been mentioning which ones are world wonders and which ones are backup, so I'll just put that in with the pictures as I did last time. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. I think it's absolutely beautiful, absolutely interesting, unique, wonderful. Definitely think it's a world wonder, and definitely think it's something to check out. Yeah. Okay. Next on the list, our number 8 is the Red Square in Moscow. Now, again, here, the Red Square, they put the whole Red Square as part of the World Wonder, so I didn't really completely understand that, because there's several buildings in the Red Square. There's the National Museum, there's obviously Lenin's Mausoleum, there's St. Basil's Cathedral. On the other side is like a huge shopping mall, which is beautiful, and all these parts in the Kremlin, you can also see it from that right there. But the side with the Kremlin is not that interesting because it's just a huge wall. You can see a little bit of it beyond the wall, but you have to actually go out of the Red Square and go all the way around if you actually want to go into the Kremlin. So I didn't completely understand why they would put it this way. So I'm going to specifically talk about St. Basil's Cathedral, because in my head, that's actually the world wonder in the Red Square. Oh my God, love St. Basil's Cathedral. I think it's so unique and so beautiful. And then also in St. Petersburg is another one that has like those onion towers. Is that what they're called in English? In German, that's how they're called, Zwiebeltürme. But I think that one's called like something Martyr of the Spilt Blood or Heart of the Spilt Blood or something like that. The one in St. Petersburg. From the outside, I would say the one in St. Petersburg is actually even more unique and beautiful to look at. However, St. Basil's Cathedral inside is insane. You guys, it's actually not that big looking when you're standing in front of it, but when you go in, it is actually like a labyrinth. I remember being in there and I was like, oh, this will probably take me, I don't know, max an hour to see everything. I was in there and I was like, wait, huh? Where'd this corridor come from? Huh? Where's this door leading? Stairs going down? Huh? Left, right, up? I was in there forever. I was just like, did they build this purposely to be a maze? It's actually really crazy on the inside. Like, I just remember so much thinking like I'm in a labyrinth. I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea what I've seen already. How much of this church have I seen? What haven't I seen? It's like built like such a, and it's so beautiful. It's so unique and so beautiful. I gotta tell you guys, I didn't really like Moscow so much. The moment you leave the Red Square, Moscow gets very ugly, in my opinion. St. Petersburg is gorgeous. However, deal with all the pain in the butt of getting the Russia visa just to see St. Petersburg. It is one of the top 5 most beautiful cities in the world. That's not even up for discussion. It is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. St. Petersburg. Oh my God, St. Petersburg is so beautiful. It must have been designed by a gay man. It's just ridiculously beautiful. But yeah, St. Basil's Cathedral, so gorgeous. And something else while I'm here I want to talk about, because I also was a little bit, where I'm again a little bit torn in Russia, because Russia has a lot of very beautiful cathedrals, and something else that they have, and I think this is something they have in Eastern Europe, I've only ever seen it in Russia, but I feel like I've read that they have it in other parts of Eastern Europe as well. They have a lot of churches and cathedrals that are built purely out of wood, but so intricate. These buildings are so beautiful. Oh my God, these wooden churches. I'm actually really right now really struggling if I think they shouldn't actually be the world wonder. I saw some of these wood churches in Russia and I was just like, this is so unique. This is so gorgeous. The time spent and the detail and the filigree and just the design, it's just, oh my God, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I mean, in terms of like churches and cathedrals, I don't even know if Russia can even be beat. I mean, and that's saying a lot, because like when you grow up in Europe, you see a lot of beautiful churches and cathedrals, but Russia really has a lot. There was also the one also in St. Petersburg that has like all these golden Zwiebeltürme, and like one that had like all of them like the night sky, just beautiful. And Russian food is actually surprisingly good. I know people are probably like, you're a Russian spy, you love Russia. I actually have to say that was one of my favorite trips I ever took, because nobody goes to Russia. There was no tourists, nothing was in English, there was no English stores, no Starbucks, no McDonald's or anything. But, I think there might have been one. I don't think it was McDonald's. I think it was a Burger King. I think I saw like one Burger King while I was there. Yeah. Wow. So St. Basil's Cathedral was built in the 1560s. It is, of course, a place of worship. It is in Moscow, Russia, and it will cost you about $10 to get in. That price must have gone up since I went, because I feel like it cost me $2 or something to go. And I looked up how much a visa would cost for an American citizen, and online it said right now it's about $185 for a single entry visa to Russia. So that's not that cheap. I know, I feel like I didn't pay that much, but I do remember Russia also being really not easy to get the visa, and it took forever to get the approval and all this kind of stuff. And I remember you had to book everything ahead of time. So I had to have my flight there, my flight back, my hotel. I had to give them an itinerary, all the places I was going to go. So it's a commitment to say to go, but it's worth it. Oh my God, it's worth it just to see St. Petersburg. If you go nowhere else in Russia, oh my God, St. Petersburg, I love you. Yeah. Okay, number 9. We're almost at the end. Angkor Wat. This is in Cambodia, near the city of Siem Reap. It was built in the 1100s, the beginning of the 1110s. Is that how you say that? It is obviously also a place of worship. Some say Hindu, some say Buddhism. I think Hindu would make more sense because at the time, I don't know if Buddhism... I'd have to research when Buddhism started spreading into Asia, I think. And it will cost you around $40 to get in. So Angkor Wat, the main is like the main temple, but when you go into this, I don't know, city of temples, I don't know. Anlage is the word I was thinking for, but that's not the English word either. There's a whole bunch of different temples, and like some of you guys who've watched the movie Tomb Raider, that temple is in that same area. Then there's the temple with the many faces. There's a temple that has like elephants within stuff, and so this is not a one-day thing. This is like 2 or 3 day thing if you want to see really all of the temples and really take your time. Angkor Wat, the main temple itself, of course, is ridiculously gorgeous. I have to personally say my favorite, though, was the temple from Tomb Raider, whose name I forgot, inserted here, because it's just really cool to see how, like, those trees, like, grew over and in and through the buildings. It just gives it this really mystical feel. Yeah, World Wonder. Beautiful. It can also get a little bit touristy. This one is actually, surprisingly enough, it gets really touristy in the mornings because like sunset is like a thing. I didn't know that. So I went there with 2 of my friends, and my friend Dan, who was there with me, he really wanted to do the sunset. This is completely wrong. Sunrise, the sunrise thing, because there's these 2 huge ponds right in front of Angkor Wat, and then when the sunset comes, they reflect onto the ponds, and it's supposed to make this beautiful picture. But of course, nobody ended up getting that picture because there was like just lines and lines of tourists all sitting right by that water trying to get that perfect picture. So of course, nobody ended up getting it. So that can be a little bit annoying, but because the entirety of Angkor Wat is so huge, I will say that even if there's a lot of tourists there at the beginning of the day, it disperses relatively quickly. The location is beautiful, the setting is beautiful, the history is beautiful, the carvings are beautiful. It's again a place that's kind of a maze, that's also just really gorgeous. The style of architecture, again, it's so unique and interesting. It just blew my mind. I really, chef's kiss to the architect, to the person who thought of it. Okay, and now we have made it to my number one, I think, of all the world wonders that they put on this list, the number one, where I was like, this definitely belongs on a list, this belongs on every list, this is the thing that everybody needs to see, this is the most gorgeous of gorgeous things has ever happened to humanity, Petra. Alright, let me give you guys the facts. Petra is actually is on official 7 world wonders. It was built around 310 BC. All of these buildings are actually tombs. That is something I didn't know until I went there either. I thought these were actually homes of people, but they're actually tombs. And they're about 3-hour drive from Amman, which is the capital of Jordan. It'll cost you about $70 to get in, so it's gotten more expensive. When I went there, it already cost $50 to get in. And when I was standing outside, I was like, $50? You guys crazy? Totally worth it. $70 worth it. $100 worth it. $150, it's worth it. Go. And I wrote myself a note here. Plus $60. Oh, plus $60. So I guess that's probably the tourist visa to go to Jordan is probably going to cost you around $60. Totally worth it. Worth it, worth it, worth it, worth it. Okay, you guys, a lot of people, this is something that drives me crazy. A lot of people nowadays, when they're like, I'm going to go to the Middle East. You know where they go? They either go to Morocco, Egypt, or Dubai. Dubai is a big... Dubai, oh God, Dubai is horrible. Egypt is a big... Morocco's nice. It's not my favorite, but it's okay. No, if you know you're probably only going to go to the Middle East once, go to Jordan. It's safe, it's clean, you can do all of the touristy, gimmicky things like ride a camel, see the desert, you can do all that stuff in Jordan, and Petra. And Petra is worth it all. It is worth it all, you guys. It is beyond stunning. So the main thing that when people think about when they look at Petra is they're thinking of the treasury or Al-Khazneh. That's probably the most iconic building or tomb in Petra. The other one that's really famous, I think, is called the... what is the other one called? Okay, I'm going to have to insert it, or maybe it'll come to me in a little bit. The treasury and the justice? No, I forget. And it's funny because like the first one you're going to see is the treasury. And then the very, very last one is the other one that's the most iconic. And they're probably the most iconic because they are the ones that are the most still intact. There's so, like, this is something else. Like, people, like, they don't even know. Like, a lot of people think you're going to go to Petra and you're just going to see that one building. No, this is another huge thing. This is probably going to take you 2 days, maybe even 3 days to see everything. I didn't know that either. Again, I went to most of these places not doing that much research because I find if I do too much research, I get too excited. I have too many expectations, and then a lot of times I get disappointed. I think sometimes maybe that's part of the reason why Egypt really was such a downer for me. Because I just knew too much and I was too much reading up on everything. So yeah, I thought I'm going to go to Petra, I'm going to see the treasury, and then that's going to be the end, and then I leave. And that's why partially also I was like, $50, that's crazy. But no, it's actually huge. Like, you end up walking. So one of the things, like, anybody who's seen Indiana Jones, you see, like, you know, you when you enter Petra, you go through that really gorge, is that what that's called in English? Like this really tight gorge, you know, and this, like, with this red stone, and like, you really do feel like Indiana Jones. You're like, ooh, you know, what's gonna happen when I turn the corner or whatever. And then all of a sudden you turn the corner and you don't even see the entirety of the treasury. You kind of see just like a part, and it's this grandiose building, and it's so huge. And then the red, and you know, if you get there in the right time and the way the sun hits it, oh my God, it's breathtakingly beautiful. And then, yeah, so that alone is worth the money personally. But then, like, you actually then go to the right and you keep walking, and there's still a little bit of a gorge, but then you end up getting into this big open area, and there's just one after another of these types of tombs. Again, they're more dilapidated and more like damaged. So I think, and they're not in such a cool setting where you're like, you know, this tight little niche area where you can't really get into. So I think that's partially why visually they might not come across as whoa. But then, yeah, you just keep going, and then at the very, very end is the other one that's really famous, and it's a little bit hidden again and more intact. So I think that's part why that one's also so famous. It's driving me crazy that I can't think of the name, but I'll insert it for you guys. Yeah, this is beautiful. I find the architecture, or this tomb building from the Nabateans, I've heard different ways of pronouncing it, sorry. Nabateans, culture. Also in Saudi Arabia, they also have a really, really famous tomb, and it's built on a freestanding boulder. I don't even know you can call it a boulder because it's huge, but it's like, yeah, it's like a humongous boulder in the middle of the desert, and they carved out a part of that boulder and built one of those tombs there, and I was lucky enough to go to see that in Saudi. And also I was just like, oh my god, this is so gorgeous and unique and crazy, and how are humans able to do something like this? The ingenuity and the thought process, and just it's just so crazy. And I think this again maybe explains why in the other video some of these things I was just like, this just doesn't hold the scale when you look at the history and the lifestyle and the culture and the way that they had to think of these things, and being able to do that at the time in history when they did. Because also the Nabethans were really clever in building water canals to make sure that they had water, because I mean this is a desert, right? And the ingenuity is just crazy to me. Crazy. Yeah. Okay, so that was my top 10. Again, you guys, please leave comments. Have you been to any of these? Do you really want to go to any of them? Do you agree with my list? The leasts and the bests? Do you agree? Do you not agree? Which ones would you exchange? What is not on the World Wonder List that you think belongs on it? Let me know. I would be very curious. And I am going to end up doing a part 4 where I'm going to talk about things that I've seen in terms of architecture around the world that I 100% think deserve to be on the World Wonder List, as a self-proclaimed travel expert, having been able to see a lot of